Hello everyone, it's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting video. And in this video, I am going to be telling you guys about my day-to-day on July 13th, 2020, and what my plans are for tomorrow, July 14th, 2020. Real quick, before this video starts, I would like you guys to look in the description box below. In the description box, you guys will be able to find this table of contents. This table of contents will show you all the topics that we're going to be talking about in today's video. If you guys aren't particularly interested in a topic, you can always skip over it by jumping into that table of contents. And if there are only one or two topics you want to check out, you can always just skip to those topics, hear me talk about those, and then, dip from the video. But if you guys want to watch the video in its entirety, or if you want to watch it chunked up, that is there for you. That's what that option is for. Also, if any of those topics sound interesting and you would like to learn more about them, not necessarily from me, but from the sources that I learned about them from, then feel free to look at the links in the description. I'll have links to different sources about all the different things that I'm talking about in this video. That way you guys can do your own research on all of these topics and draw your own conclusions from that research. Also, if you guys want to talk about any of these topics with me directly, feel free to comment in the comment section below or to join our Discord in case you want to message me directly and we have an in-depth discussion about any of these topics or really about anything. Because I enjoy talking with you guys on the Discord. I actually need to check the Discord. I haven't checked it today. Oh no. So I'm going to check in on the Discord after I record this video and see how they're doing over there. But yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I need to cover before I start this video. Real quick, I'm going to look at this older video that I did so I can grab a link. Yeah, I didn't grab a link that describes who Weapon Ultra is. Because I keep making videos about Weapon Ultra, and because most people don't know who Weapon Ultra is, I always have to include a link that's and in case you guys don't know who he is, you can go to this link. But anyways, this has been a long intro. Let's hop right in and talk about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So I watched the gameplay trailer for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I thought it was pretty cool, not gonna lie. So they introduced the concept of raids, where you're able to ride up with a ship full of your dudes, and you get out of the ship on the shoreline, and you and all your dudes will run into a village and just fuck shit up. You'll start killing people, stealing stuff, essentially just a straight loot and murder session. But what I thought was interesting about the raid system is that you have all these NPCs that help you do stuff. They don't just get off the boat and start doing random stuff. I mean, I guess they kind of do. They'll start randomly fighting different people and burning buildings and stuff. But they show that the NPCs will help you do stuff like break down doors or to carry heavy objects to put on the ship. So it's not just that you pull up on the shore and the NPCs that are with you just do whatever. If there's something that you need help with, they will help you do that thing. I also thought it was interesting because they talk about how the reason why you're doing these raids is because you have your own settlement that you're trying to grow. So depending on what you find during these raids will help you to grow your settlement. So it's kind of like a community building RPG where you're trying to build your own little settlement and gain additional members to your settlement. But in order to do that, you kind of have to go at war with other settlements. I think that's a pretty cool idea. I vibe with that. Another interesting concept that they're introducing to this. So they have this mechanic where you can dual wield any two weapons, and they even show people dual wielding two shields. So they're blocking and hitting at the same time and bashing people with both of the shields. I thought that was really cool. But they also have this new harpoon weapon that you kind of swing around and like stab into people. And I think dual wielding the harpoons would look really cool because like the crazy fluid combat motions that they show when you use the harpoon with just one in the trailer, I think would look even cooler if you had two. You were hitting opponents on either side, doing all these crazy tricks. I feel like it feels more like an assassin weapon than the axes. They keep showing off the axes, but I feel like this harpoon, there's something so like smooth and quick about it that makes me go, ooh, like I don't know, it makes me feel like an assassin. Just like how a lot of game reviewers, whenever they review like a Batman game, are like, it makes you feel like Batman. It's like, I just think it would be cool. You pop your harpoon real quick, they're dead. Retract the harpoon, pull up your hood, keep going. You walk between two guys, they're dead. Pop the hood, keep going. I thought the dual wielding was cool. I think the harpoon weapon is cool. I think the raid system is interesting. I want to see what different options you have when you do the raids for how you can like command the NPCs. Like, do you have to call NPCs over to help you do certain things, and otherwise they just kind of act autonomously? Or is it like a micromanage thing where you're like, you NPCs burn that building, you NPCs help me move this thing? Like, I'm curious how that works. Another thing that they have in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they have a variety of new enemy types, and they're like, for each enemy type you have to take them down in a different way. The enemies will start interacting with the environment and throwing things at you, including like dead bodies. Like, they'll pick up people that you've killed and like hurl them at you, and they show the player, like in the gameplay trailer, get hit by one of the dead bodies, and like you don't just get hit by it and then just kind of go like, ugh. It like knocks you off your feet because you're getting hit by like a grown man being thrown at you. And I was like, that's pretty intense. But they also mentioned that enemies won't just fight you one at a time. Like, they have group tactics. So if you're surrounded by enemies, you could end up getting like held, and people are like stabbing you and shit. So you can like get legitimately ganged. And I think that's cool. Because I think a lot of people have complained that in past Assassin's Creed games, they kind of do the one at a time wait to fight you thing. But in this game, it doesn't seem like they play like that. They seem fairly savage, but your character is also fairly savage. So I guess it all works out there. Let's see. I can't believe we're already 8 minutes into this video. That's insane. So we just talked about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and my thoughts on the new gameplay trailer. Definitely feel free to check the link in the description if you want to learn more about it and watch the trailer for yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on the Assassin's Creed Valhalla trailer in the comment section below, and message me about it on the Discord. Next up, let's talk about, that's not what I thought the next image would be. Next up, let's talk about Watch Dogs Legion. So we also got a gameplay trailer for Watch Dogs Legion, and I actually was pretty hype about that, not gonna lie. So the big selling point to this game is that you can recruit any of the non-player characters to join the Resistance, and then you play as members of the Resistance, trying to take down this like corrupt dystopian London. Like, it's a game that takes place in like the not so distant future where London is a dystopia and you're a part of like a hacker resistance group that's recruiting members of London. So any NPC you see in the game, including enemies, which I'm not sure if we knew about that beforehand, but this trailer confirms that you can recruit enemies. Any NPC in the game, you recruit them, you have to complete a mission as them, which will introduce you to that character, and it's kind of like the start of that character's story. You essentially play through the origin story of that character and how they like ended up joining the Resistance. And then once you finish playing through their origin story, you can just play as them in the game. You can play the game as them. But the game also has permadeath, So if you're playing as a character and they die, they're just dead. That character's not in the game anymore. But they showed off how you can do any mission with any character, is what it seemed like. But I feel like there was an older trailer that they showed. Maybe not a trailer, but like a earlier gameplay footage thing, where they were like, for this mission, we specifically need a person who does this. But it seemed like this trailer was really pushing that you're not going to have to use specific characters to complete certain missions. Because they showed the same mission be completed by 3 different characters who each approach the mission in entirely different ways, which I really like. They showed off one guy who essentially is a hitman, so you're doing all these like really smooth like gunshot moves and using like a wire to like strangle and like kill people. They showed this guy who was like a drunk boxer, and you see him in a bar just like taking shots, and then he walks outside and he sees some bad guys and he just goes ham, and he has like this really like free-flowing combat where he's just straight up just street fighting people, but then he passes out at the end because he's like too drunk. They show a bad guy who gets recruited to the resistance, and how when you play as the bad guys, as long as you don't do anything that makes you look suspicious, you can walk like straight into like a stronghold or whatever and just kind of do what you need to do for the mission without blowing your cover. And I'm like, ooh, that's like super stealthy. That's like next level stealth. And they talk about how like one wrong move and you might just get like shot in the back of the head. Like it may be like such a fast thing. Like if you mess up to where it's like, I guess it's just game over. One of the coolest characters that they showed off was the construction worker. This guy here, they convinced me that like an entire action game based on a construction worker would actually be really cool. So at first he's just beating up guys with a wrench, and I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. Like I was like, there's nothing really cool about him beating up guys with a wrench. And then they're like, well, since he's a construction worker, you know, he doesn't necessarily have like a traditional like gun. He uses like a nail gun, and he holds it like in a different way from how you would think you would hold like a normal gun, because it's like a nail gun, and he's firing these nails at dudes. And I'm like, oh, that's different. I was like, that's kind of cool. That makes sense. And then they're like, and because it's like the not so distant future, he has like a cargo drone, which is like this huge drone that's used to like move building materials, but you can like stand on the drone and ride it. And he rides it over like this giant wall, and then he lands the drone in the middle of like an enemy like battlefield or whatever, and then pulls out his nail gun. He's like, pop, pop, pop. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that's actually really wild. I would have never thought of that. I'm like, this is a cool concept. I'm liking him, and I'm liking the drunk boxing dude. Both of them just feel really different. They also showed this like traditional hacker character who's like, I'm all about drones, and I can hack into drones, and I have my own drones. And I'm like, cool, yeah. Like, the least interesting thing you could show me in this game where you can play as literally anybody is just normal Watch Dogs stuff. Because Watch Dogs is normally a game where it's like, you're a hacker and you hack into stuff, and like that's how you get around and you do missions. It's like, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that that's still in the game, but I feel like the gameplay trailer could just say, of course you can still do hacking, but we're gonna focus on all the new stuff that you can do. You know what I mean? Like, stuff that you wouldn't expect to be in Watch Dogs, like the construction worker guy. Bet you didn't think he was gonna be in a Watch Dogs game, you know? But I'm actually pretty hyped for Watch Dogs Legion. I'm actually really curious about, like, the population of the game. Like, of the simulated city that you're in. Because what if you start recruiting the bad guys on purpose, like en masse? You just recruit a whole bunch of the bad guys, but then you purposely fail their origin missions to just kill them off. So it's like you try to run up on as many bad guys as possible and recruit them, and then purposely get them killed. will the game make new bad guys? Or will you, at certain points where you should get swarmed with enemies, just have less enemies to deal with because you essentially use the game mechanic to allow you to control the characters and then have them essentially off themselves by like blowing their cover in a mission or something and dying? I think that would be like an interesting exploit in order to try and make the game easier by taking control of and taking out the competition. Like, for a game like this, I'm curious what the speedrunning community is going to be like. Like, I wonder if there are going to be, like, optimal character types. Like, ooh, like the construction worker was so good because you can use his drone to skip over areas of the game, or, like, something weird like that. I would love to see how you speedrun a game like this. And I also like the idea that all these NPCs have their own like stories and origins, and that I imagine a lot of the NPCs are going to probably fall into archetypes, but I think they're trying to make it where it's like, no two NPCs are quite the same kind of thing. Because I think that's actually a really cool concept, and will probably be pretty fun. But what are you guys' thoughts on Watch Dogs Legion? Like I said, I'm going to have the gameplay trailer available in the description box below if you guys want to check that out. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and message me on the Discord about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Watch Dogs Legion. If I had to decide on which game I'm more hyped for, Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Watch Dogs Legion, I've never played a Watch Dogs game, like ever. I own Watch Dogs 2, I haven't played Watch Dogs 2. Watch Dogs Legion seems just really interesting. I like the idea that they're stepping away from you have to be like a nerdy hacker guy in order to be like a part of the resistance, but that they're not stepping too far away to where it's not about hacking. Like, clearly hacking and stuff is still a part of the game. So if you want to play it that way, they have characters that you can play as who do the hacking stuff. But I think Watch Dogs Legion will appeal more to the everyman because there's going to be a character for you. There's going to be some NPC in the world where you're like, oh, I like their fighting style, or oh, I like their backstory, or oh, I like how this character looks. They remind me of like X, Y, or Z, you know. Like when I saw the construction worker, my friend Avery, last time I talked with him, he did construction work, and I'm curious if he sees like a construction worker in the game, does he think to himself, oh, that's really cool, it's kind of like I'm in the game, like I work with this kind of stuff all the time. Like, I wonder, like, what is your thought process if any of these NPCs kind of reflect like the stuff that you're into and the stuff that you do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm really into AI. Are they going to have an NPC in the game who's like, yeah, I work for like an artificial intelligence company and I don't just hack into stuff. I have like these AI programs that I like load into things that like talk to me and help instruct me to like get through like buildings and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, like that'd be cool. Like, I'm kind of hyped. It's a game that has like a huge roster of characters that's probably like one of the most ambitious character rosters of like any video game. Assassin's Creed Valhalla looks lit. I'm excited for it, but I'm not sure if I'm as excited for Valhalla as I am for Watch Dogs. I'm also like a big like cyber nerd. Like, I am a cybersecurity research engineer. Most of my waking hours are spent focusing on cybersecurity stuff. So Watch Dogs should be right up my alley. I actually once went on I wanted to say tripwire, a ziplining trip. I once went on a ziplining trip with a group of friends, and we actually met a professional football player. There should be a video of it like somewhere on the channel, but it's probably going to be like an older video. But when I talked to him about like what I do, he said, like Watch Dogs, like Watch Dogs was his understanding of like hacking and like cybersecurity stuff. He was like, oh, like Watch Dogs. So it seems like I've been sleeping on Watch Dogs, I guess, because I imagine it's the kind of stuff that I like. So if I had to compare like Watch Dogs Legion and like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and say which one I'm more hype about, probably Watch Dogs Legion. There's just so much you could do. If you got bored playing as a character, you could just play as another one of the hundreds of characters available in the game. You know what I mean? Like there's so much variety there, and you're exploring like a modern dystopian London. So they're going to have all these like interesting pseudo like not too distant future sci-fi things going on. Like that really big cargo drone. I want to see what other things that they have in the game where they're like, this is supposed to be maybe like a decade in the future. So here's some of the different stuff that they would have that's only like slightly more advanced than current technology. I like seeing predictions of stuff like that in fiction. It gives you an idea of what people think the future might be like technologically. So I guess I want to like explore that world and see how like close it is to our own world technology wise and how far it is. Like, are they going to introduce any tech in the game that goes a little beyond what we can currently do in technology to the point where it's like kind of ridiculous? What are all the different like character archetypes and abilities? How soon can you jump into the game and start playing as different people before you suddenly are like, okay, well, this guy's just the same as the other guy that I played? Like, I'm curious how much variety there actually is. I just have so many questions about Legion, and I guess I'm just a lot more hype about Legion. Like, if Assassin's Creed Valhalla had the same mechanic, and it was like, you could play as, like, any one of these different Vikings. Because remember, Valhalla has this thing where it's like, there are all these different enemy types, and you have to take them down in different ways. To be honest, if Valhalla had a system like this, where you could recruit different Vikings to your settlement, and then you could play as like any of the different Vikings, including enemies, so then you could play as some of these characters that have like unique fighting styles and tactics that are like unique to their enemy type. That could be kind of cool, especially since the game is about building up a settlement. Like, it just seems kind of hype. And I'm curious how many open world style games are going to adapt something like Watch Dogs Legion in the future, where it is like, yeah, fuck it, everybody in the game's in the roster. You can play as anybody in the game. That just sounds cool to me. I don't know about you guys, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and in our Discord. So we talked about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and we talked about Watch Dogs Legion. It seems like there's not a day where I don't talk about this, but let's talk about the gateway process. So if you guys have been staying tuned to the channel, especially to like the last few videos that I've done, it seems like not a day goes by where I don't talk about the CIA documents that everybody seems really hype about. So there's a CIA document called Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process. The document was written in 1983, but it was declassified in 2003 and released to where essentially anyone could read the document. The document tries to scientifically explain like astral projection. It makes claims that like the universe is a hologram and that everyone is like an energy being and that all these different like psychic abilities exist and that like alternate dimensions exist and that time travel exists. Just all these different things that they bring up that we would normally consider like fictional or to be like science fiction or I guess like psychic science fiction. They're like, all that stuff's real, and here's like the scientific explanation for why it's real. But this is old. Like, even if this article, this document, was like cutting edge in 1983, like even if you were to try and argue that this was like the best scientific explanation and that scientists in 1983 would have agreed with like all the conclusions of the document, which I doubt. But even if you were to argue that, science is just, it's a study that's continually growing, just like any other study, that constantly builds upon itself, and as it continues to grow, a lot of things that we thought were true at one point are disproven later. So even if this document was like concrete in 1983, and we thought all that stuff was true, it's now been a long time since 1983. And we probably shouldn't take everything we read in this document at face value. And we shouldn't be like super hype and going, oh, the universe is a hologram, or oh, we're energy beings. Like, we shouldn't make strong claims just because this document makes strong claims. We should try and like break down the arguments in the document for why it says that the universe is a hologram, and for why it says we're all energy beings, and try to see if those arguments hold true when we compare them to like modern science and our like modern understanding of the universe. Like, I have multiple issues with the current hype about these documents. Near the end of last month, it seems like it kind of blew up on Twitter. There were a whole bunch of tweets talking about it, where people were like, oh, newly released CIA documents. For some reason, everybody thinks that these documents are brand new, like as if they were declassified this year and just released, and everyone's reacting as if no one else is talking about it. They're like, no one else is talking about like this breaking news, newly released documents, even though the documents have been available for like the past 17 years. So everyone's essentially stating that everything in the document is like true. Like most things that I've looked at that people have posted, whether it be on Twitter or in like articles or on YouTube, people seem to be posting from the perspective of it's real, the document confirms that it's real, and here's like my opinion on it. Some people don't even go as far as to give their opinion on it. A lot of people just say it's real, and then that's all they say, especially on Twitter. A lot of the Twitter posts are just people saying, the CIA confirmed that like the universe is a hologram, or the CIA confirmed that astral projection exists, or CIA confirmed, like it's a lot of stuff like that. And I think that's really gross. It just seems like people aren't really thinking critically about the material, and I feel like that's kind of dangerous. Today, I noticed that within the last week, there have been a flood of new YouTube videos that have come out talking about the assessment of the gateway process. I watched the beginning of a few of them, I watched some of them to completion, but these videos are actually much longer than the previous videos that I've watched. In earlier videos on my channel where I've talked about this subject, I read through like a bunch of tweets about it, I looked at like an article about it, and I watched some short videos that seemed like they were made by a bot that were, seems like the goal of the bot was to try and get people to visit a malicious website that was posing as like a law of attraction website, but if you went there, it was like a phishing scam. And those short videos were really weird. Then recently I saw some videos that weren't created by a bot, and those videos were kind of more interesting. One was like an advertisement, more or less, for this guy's YouTube channel. At least that was my interpretation of it. And the other one was just someone who seemed legitimately interested in the document, and who was talking about some of the more interesting implications of the document. Now there are a flood of like really long videos. This video is like this one right here, is almost 3 hours long. It's by Mary TV. It has 290 views, and in the video, she reads the entire document. She reads the whole thing. Now, this one was kind of sad, not gonna lie. I didn't finish it, but the start of it, like at the beginning of the video, she mentions that her grandmother had died. I think she said that her grandmother had died like that day, and that her grandmother was kind of into like radical ideas, and she's more or less reading the document because that's the kind of thing that her grandmother would have been into. And I was really surprised that that was the premise. But she like live streamed herself reading this whole document. And I imagine it was almost like in her memory cathartic thing. So that was actually a really interesting story. Like I didn't expect there to be that like additional weight to it. But I watched, I think, about like 12 minutes of the video. And I think it's mainly just her reading the document. It didn't seem like there was a ton of commentary. She would occasionally do what I do, where as you're talking, you like mess up and then you like re-say stuff. And I was like, I feel you, like we've all been there. And she even talks a little bit about like, how can I make it where you guys see the document and you also see me talking and stuff like that? And it's like, I've been there. You know, like we all have to start somewhere when it comes to like making videos and stuff. But I'm like, those are like common issues. Anyways, I thought that was kind of like a cute thing. Moving on. So this guy titled his video, Leaked CIA PDF on Consciousness, Energy, and Interdimensional Travel, Episode 6, Genie Out the Bottle. So I didn't finish his video. I watched the beginning of it, and his video was very interesting. I feel like he's getting into like more of like the dangerous part of it, where you take it like really strongly, like what's being said in the document. You know, because a lot of what I've been talking about so far in this video about it is that I feel like people are taking the document at face value and they're treating it as like, oh, this is like 100% real. Oh man, this is like evidence for all these things existing. This guy straight up at the beginning of the video says that this document has like shaped his spiritual beliefs. Like it's changed the way that he like sees spirituality. And I think it's getting alarming. It's getting kind of weird. You know, like a lot of people have been saying, oh, these documents prove like the law of attraction exists or whatever, right? And that's fairly innocent, you know? It's essentially saying people who already believe in the law of attraction, here's just a thing that we think, for some reason, proves that that exists. So it just makes them feel more comfortable in the beliefs that they already held. But for someone to say, this is my new religion. You know, like this document from 1983, this government document from 1983, to say, yeah, I guess this is what, like the foundation for my spiritual beliefs now, is like a really big thing to say. Because, like, where do you draw the line, I guess? Because if you don't, like, try to critically break down the stuff in the document and try to verify whether or not what the document is talking about is accurate to modern science, essentially what you're doing when you decide to base your spirituality on it is you're saying that, well, I guess this document written by my government is going to determine how I feel spiritual, like, and what I believe in. I think that's kind of wild. Feels very wild. I think it's going too far. Because I feel like this video got like 455 views. Let's say that this dude inspires someone else to be like, oh man, CIA document is the truth. This is my new path now. I am also on the spiritual path of like the CIA document. And then what if that guy gets like more people? And what if it like grows? What if there's like a whole spiritual movement based on this like CIA document where like the government inadvertently ends up creating like a new religion or something? That would be kind of wild. I don't know. I feel like it starts with one. It just starts with like one person who decides that like, I guess this is like the building blocks for my spirituality, and like domino effect. It's already kind of like a weird domino effect. I don't know who started this. This is like the thing that kind of eats at me. I'm like, what was the first tweet or whatever? Because it seems like this started on Twitter. But I wouldn't be surprised if it actually started somewhere else. Like if it started on like 4chan or something. But who was the first person to say, hey, this document is new for some reason? Because I don't know why people are saying that's new. But who's the first person to say there's this new declassified CIA document that explains all these things about the universe and makes all these claims about like other dimensions and time travel and psychic abilities, and why is no one talking about it? Because that's all anyone said at the beginning. But now we're getting these videos that go more in depth. We're getting videos where people are reading like the entire document. We have videos where people are using it to like advertise for like their YouTube channels or advertise for like books that they've written. I've watched a few videos today where it was like, oh, and this actually reminds me of the stuff that is written in my books. You should check out my books. Like, people are using this as a way for them to like market their own material on like similar subjects. People are using this as like a foundation for their spiritual beliefs. People are using this as like validation for their like pre-existing spiritual beliefs. It seems like a big small deal, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't like the biggest news right now or anything like that. It's just like a little thing, but it seems like it's growing. There's just a flood of more and more content, and the content's getting longer, and the content's getting like more personal, and it's interesting. Like, I feel like, especially for young people, this could have like a really dramatic effect on how they see the world. Coming from the perspective of someone who as a kid was like obsessed with like superpowers, and I would look online trying to see if like superpowers were real and see if like superheroes were real, and then spent like a good portion of my life like patrolling like my neighborhood under like a code name that now I'm known for, to the point where that's just the name that I go by. Like, just in real life, most people call me Jet rather than Nick, and I actually prefer Jet over Nick. It's just become more or less my new name. Like, essentially, this is like the kind of stuff that people can get behind and form whole like adolescent experiences behind, like stuff that kind of forms you into the person that you become. You know, people gravitate to this kind of thing, and you can see that people are gravitating to this kind of thing because it's like just spreading like wildfire. And I don't know what triggered the spread or what's causing the spread to continue, but I don't see the spread ending yet. I kind of thought it might have already been over, but it's still growing. This video is a part 2. I watched this video and they were like, if you want to know more, I actually talk about it in part 1. And they even elaborated to say that there might be a part 3, that they might be doing another video on it. So now we also have like series coming out of this, like people saying like, this isn't it, I'm gonna do like multi-part videos talking about like the same subject. This one is also like an episode 1, though I watched the beginning of this, and when I watched the beginning of this, it seemed like it actually was about a different CIA document that happened to be about astral projection. I didn't finish that one, but I thought it was interesting, because I'm like, oh, are people digging into some of the other documents now? Is this going to be a thing? Like, is 2020 going to be the year where everybody gets swept into the CIA declassified psychic stuff? I don't know. I think one thing that I mentioned in my first video talking about this, that I still believe this to this day. I think it's really interesting that when the Pentagon was like, hey, we're going to release like footage of UFOs that we admit are like UFO, like we don't really know what they are, they're literally unidentified flying objects, here we go, and no one cared. I'm like, is that what happened with these documents too? Like, analysis and assessment of the gateway process? Like, Did this come out in 2003 and everyone heard about it in 2003 and nobody cared? But then, right after nobody cared, was it a thing where, like 20 years later almost, because it's been like 17 years since it was released, suddenly someone sees it and they cared? Is that going to happen with the Pentagon UFO video thing? Like, no one cared about that when that happened. And that's actually new. And that's actually this year. Like, it seems like it would be the more relevant thing is the Pentagon UFO thing. Is no one going to care about that now? But in, like, almost 20 years, when it's, like, retro, is everyone going to just say that it's the new crazy thing that flipped the world upside down? Are there going to be people who grow up believing that this is true throughout, like, their whole life? Think about that guy who says that it kind of, like, shaped his spiritual beliefs. Does that guy have kids? Does that guy have, like, nieces or nephews? Is he gonna, like, teach younger people that, like, this stuff is real? You know, like, I just feel like this kind of stuff has an impact on people. And when you do create all these videos about it, where you don't promote that people think critically about it, where you just say to take it at face value, you're, like, shaping the next generation of people to, like, believe in this kind of stuff. And I admit that I, like, do believe in, like, paranormal stuff, but I'm just very skeptical of it. You know, if I can't prove it, I take a lot of it with, like, a grain of salt. You know what I mean? And I feel like you can't prove most of it. So I take most of it with a grain of salt. But I still find it interesting. I like to discuss it. I think it's fun to discuss it with people. And I also really enjoy the idea of trying to think about it in relation to, like, writing fiction about it. I think that'd be really cool. And I like to think about it from the implications of, so the CIA definitely thought it was real. I wonder what the CIA tried to do with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's more interesting. But what are you guys' thoughts on this? And how has this affected you in any way? You know what I mean? Because it seems like people have gone from just saying the documents are real and that everything in the documents are true to people saying this is, like, shaping the way I believe, or reading this document is helping me get through, like, hard times. Because that's, like, another thing. Like, the idea of reading the documents as, like, a catharsis for, like, a lost loved one kind of thing. There's kind of some emotional layers to that. You know what I mean? Like, it is starting to feel almost like a religious thing in a way. Because people also, like, read the Bible and stuff when, like, a loved one dies. And the stuff that's in the CIA document talks about, like, other dimensions and, like, astral travel and other dimensional entities and out-of-body beings. Like, are people gonna start relating that to, like, afterlife stuff? You know, like, is this gonna become some weird pseudo-religion based on government documents? Because that sounds really weird. That's where it seems like it could lean. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below, and feel free to hit me up on the Discord. Links to, like, all these videos, by the way, are in the description box below, as well as links to the like, document in question, and links to this better document that no one's talking about. The workbook that actually is, like, a guide on how to do a lot of the stuff that's mentioned in the first document. The reason why this document's the popular one is because it's like, here's the scientific explanation for everything, but this is the document that's straight up like, hey, do you want to do any of the stuff? Here are the instructions on how to do any of this stuff. Like, if you just wanted to, like, learn how to manipulate energy, or they even have instructions on how to, like, unlock, like, super strength and super speed and shit like that. In this one, no one talks about this one. I don't know why. They're literally talking about the same thing. And this one seems like the practical one. But I already went on a whole rant about that in another video. So let's not talk about that now. So let's see, what's the next topic on our agenda? So Danica and I had a lot of fun tonight. So in case you guys missed it in a previous video, my friend Danica and I, we used to go on a lot of dates in college. We went on like over 10 dates. We're both into like cybersecurity and superheroes and comic books and movies and cartoons. But she's one of the few girls who I went on like a lot of dates with, but never actually became like boyfriend and girlfriend with. And I had asked her at one point if she was interested in being boyfriend and girlfriend back in college, but at the time she was dealing with a lot. She was like looking for a job within like the cybersecurity field. She had a lot of obligations at home. She was dealing with like schoolwork and her studies. It didn't seem like she was against the idea of being boyfriend and girlfriend. It just wasn't the time. She was just busy. Now that like a few years have passed, maybe just 1 year or so, time feels so weird because college feels like it was a while ago, but it really wasn't. Since then, she now like has her own apartment and she has a job in the field and she's graduated from college. Like a lot of the things that were keeping us from being in a relationship before, the fact that she like had so much on her plate, those things are kind of like out of the way now. And I actually saw that she was on Tinder before I like hit her up because we hadn't talked in a while. And I noticed that whenever I'm in a relationship, it seems like Danica doesn't really hit me up that much. But Beth and I recently broke up because Beth and I just want different things in life. Like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have any like roommates or anything. I don't want to have pets. I don't want to have kids. And those are all things that Beth wants. So Beth and I, on mutual terms, we're still friends, decided that we would just like break up and like move on. So Beth and I broke up. And I noticed that like Danica seemed like she was looking and that she was ready to potentially like at least mingle with people, try and like find like a relationship. And because the breakup with Beth was so smooth, I don't feel like there's any reason for me to like wait to get back into the dating scene. It's not that I didn't care for Beth, it's just there's no reason to harp on Beth if Beth and I are going separate ways. You know what I mean? If we just want different things. So if Danica and I had like a good chemistry before, and it seemed like we could have dated, I'm like, why not like hit up Danica now? And whether or not we do end up like becoming boyfriend and girlfriend, I still enjoy just spending time with Danica anyways. Like I just enjoy her company. I feel like we have really good discussions. So I hit up Danica and I was like, hey, how's it going? I explained like the recent like breakup stuff. And I explained my interest in like wanting to go on dates with Danica once all the pandemic stuff blows over like we used to. And how I would just love to be able to like talk with her again. And she mentioned how like she's actually interested in us going on dates, and how she really enjoyed what we had before, and that she does want to like continue talking. And we've even talked about like ideas for like future dates, and potential date ideas for like during the pandemic and stuff like that. And today we just like messaged for hours talking about like superheroes and comic books and the Spider-Man PS4 game and Miles Morales and Amadeus Cho and the Champions and Spider-Woman, just going back and forth talking about all this cool like superhero stuff. And it's just nice. I'm just enjoying talking with Danica and bonding with Danica. And it's just cool to be able to like talk and bond with her again. I really enjoy that time. Also, Danica's interested in potentially picking up Marvel Future Fight, because I talked with her about Marvel Future Fight a little bit. And I also think it's really cool because I'm really into DC Comics, and Danica's really into Marvel Comics. So a lot of times Danica will teach me something about Marvel Comics that I don't know, and I might teach her something about DC Comics that she doesn't know, and we're able to like jump off of each other's like topics. It's really fun. I even talked to her about the CIA document stuff a little bit. It seems like her and I can kind of talk about anything. She does get busy from time to time, so we don't always have the opportunity to have talks like this. but I really value when we do, and I enjoyed the talks that we had tonight. But things seem to be going well with Danica. So that's awesome. I did real quick, transitioning. So we're going on to the next topic. I made some Weapon Ultra fan art, but I didn't make a lot. So tonight I just did a couple pieces. This is just a recolor of something that I had already done before. So this is Weapon Ultra, but he's red instead of blue. And he has like the energy sword. But then I also made like a half and half version where he's like half red and half blue. And his energy sword is purple because that's the color that you get when you mix red and blue together. Originally, when I was trying to make this, I had a few different ideas. Like, my original inspiration for the red one was that I wanted to kind of make, like, Ultra Rangers. So you take the character of Weapon Ultra, who's like an open source superhero that anyone can use in any project. And I was like, what if instead of Weapon Ultra being one character, he was like a team of characters, like the Power Rangers? And they each wore like a different color variation of the Weapon Ultra suit, and they each had a different color, like energy sword. So I was going to make a whole bunch of variations of Weapon Ultra with different like colors. But then I made the red one, and I was like, you know, it'd be cool if you had like the half blue, half red look, because that reminded me of like old school 3D glasses, how they were like half blue and half red. But then once I made the half blue, half red one, I was like, he looks a lot like a public domain superhero called Daredevil. I don't have an image of Daredevil, so look up on Google Daredevil public domain superhero. It's not the Daredevil you're thinking of. It's not the Marvel Daredevil. The old school Daredevil used like a boomerang or whatever. I think he was mute. I may be wrong about that, but I think there was something where he couldn't talk. Again, I could be completely wrong, but his outfit has a similar like half red, half blue color scheme, and it's split down the middle in a very similar way. And I was like, wow, it kind of looks like the Daredevil variation of Weapon Ultra. So I thought that was cool. But let me know your thoughts on my Weapon Ultra fan arts. I'm really big into Weapon Ultra. Excuse me, if you haven't guessed, based on all my other videos about him. If you guys are like, what is he talking about? Like, who's Weapon Ultra? Definitely check out my Who is Weapon Ultra video that I posted in the description box below. Should give you all the information that you need on Weapon Ultra. So that's enough about the Weapon Ultra fan art. Let's talk about what are my plans for tomorrow. So, real quick, yesterday's video, I talked about what my plans for today were. And my plans for today were to do the same old stuff that I do every day, plus talk with my friend Maddie on the phone, finish the DC Comics event, War of the Gods, and start the DC Comics run Son of Vulcan. Like, those were the three things I was going to do today. I didn't do any of those things. So Maddie was like, oh, I have a headache. So we didn't talk on the phone. We like messaged a little bit, and we didn't message nearly as much as I messaged with Danica, which is kind of funny because originally today was going to be heavily based on, you know, talking with Maddie. But instead, I spent a good bit of the day talking with Danica, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was really nice. So I messaged with Danica. I didn't read either of those comics, so maybe tomorrow I'll read the comics that I was going to read initially. And maybe tomorrow also, Maddie and I will actually talk on the phone, ? I don't know. You know, if Danica's free, I would love to just talk with Danica more. I don't have a lot of friends who like actively read comic books, and there's so much random comic book bullshit that I always have to say. Like, I'm always, like, open to having the discussions, and I just don't really have a lot of people to have the discussions with. My friend Dozer reads comics, and Dozer and I will have cool conversations about comics. Shout out to Dozer. I do have friends who read comic books, I just feel like I don't end up talking with those friends super regularly about comic books. And a lot of my friends who read comic books don't necessarily read like new comic books. They're not like caught up with what's like currently going on to where they can talk about it from the perspective of like, let's speculate what's coming up next, or what do we like about what is currently happening in comics, or what do we not like about what's currently happening in comics. And if we were like behind like the pen and the pad, what would we do? Like, how would we try and like put our mark on the industry? Do we care about putting our mark on the industry, or do we just want to be creative? Stuff like that. I had a lot of fun talking with Danica about like conventions, because she mentioned that she had never been to like a convention before. But she talked about, well, no. It wasn't that she'd never been to a convention before. It was that she hasn't been to a lot of conventions, but from what she's experienced, what she really enjoyed was meeting people and walking around the convention. So she's like, I don't know how I would feel about like a virtual convention, because I asked if she was going to go to the virtual Dragon Con. She's like, I don't know how I feel about a virtual convention because it's lacking like the one thing that I really enjoy doing at the convention. And it's like, I get that. I understand where you're coming from. But enough about that. I brought it back to the Danica stuff. Let's bring it back to like, what are my plans for tomorrow? If Danica's free, I'd be down to talk with Danica. If Maddie's free, I'd be down to do the phone call that we were gonna do before. I keep saying Let's see. I didn't finish War of the Gods, so I might finish War of the Gods. I say I might because it's like the last issue of War of the Gods. So I'm like, not much can actually happen in this issue. Like, it has to resolve itself in this issue. So I imagine it's like they beat Cersei, who caused all the bullshit, and then all the bullshit goes away. Like, it seems kind of predictable. Wonder Woman died in the last issue that I read. And I'm like, so yeah, Wonder Woman's going to come back to life, and they're going to beat Cersei, and all the gods are going to go away, and the Earth will be fine. And I also took a peek at the Wikipedia. And on the Wikipedia, it was like, yeah, Wonder Woman comes back to life, and they beat Cersei, and all the stuff is fixed, and it's fine. So it's whatever. Like, I kind of know what's going to happen. I feel like the coolest parts of the event are, like, the middle. Like, the second and third issue. Because it's the heroes dealing with all these different gods from all these different pantheons around the world. And the last issue is just going to be, like, closure. But it's closure for an event that happened, like, over 20 years ago. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to read War of the Gods, you could probably just read issues 1 through 3, and then just know in 4, it all goes back to normal. But each issue is like twice the size of like a normal comic book or whatever. It's just a lot to read for just a resolution that you could have easily predicted. You know what I mean? Issue 4 doesn't matter. Like, I'm probably not going to read issue 4 of War of the Gods. I might not. I don't know. But The Son of Vulcan I'm interested in, and I probably am going to read The Son of Vulcan. That's like I think a 6-issue series from 2005. The Son of Vulcan seems pretty cool, so I might do that tomorrow. Or I might say fuck it and not do it at all. Like I did today. But anyways, that's all I have for today. So let's jump into the outro. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you guys liked this video, make sure to smash that like button. Favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding, ding, ding. Ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you guys want to talk about anything, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below or to message me on the Discord. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only. Log it out. Peace, guys. Chicka da ga.